Yo, Big D with uh late night USA Iran recap on the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. But before I tell you about this crazy game at the 2022 World Cup, please subscribe to the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can see all the videos that I upload plus streams. And if you are an audio podcast person, please check out Spotify and Apple if you want to hear the Big D podcast before. But whew, tonight's game between the U.S. and Iran took effort. Was not physically hard, but one of the mentally toughest games we've ever seen. But the U.S. prevailed 1-0. Yes, Christian Pulisic, Captain America, scored at this World Cup. Woo! But this game, especially early one, like I thought, Iran would sit back and try and hit the U.S. on the counter, and the U.S. would have to break down Iran's defense and hopes of scoring because the U.S. heading into this game needed to win the game outright. A draw or loss would not work. The Americans need to win this game, otherwise they're getting on playing the ball, which is not good. But the U.S. prevailed. When I saw the lineup for the U.S., I was concerned. That there seemed to be maybe a lack of playmaker on the pitch, but that the U.S. would be making a change and in the back line, Walker Zimmerman, the Cameron Carter, Vickers, who hadn't played for the U.S. much recently, and he and Tim Ream had never played for the Americans together, so it was a new center-back partnership in the most important game of this World Cup because if the Americans lose or draw, they're done. So, and then the second big change was that Josh Sargent as the striker in a 4-3-3 with Pulisic and Timothy Weah alongside him. And from the opening whistle, the Americans said aggressiveness and a positive attitude going forward. The U.S. brought patience, creativity, but also class when needed. It seemed like, especially the fullbacks, especially early, really got forward. So Junior Dest and Anthony Robinson really got off the pitch and tried to make the game wide because Iran would sit back and try and make everything narrow. And Robinson and Dest really made the pitch wide. It got everybody involved. Musa was everyone. McKinney, Adams, Weah, Pulisic, all going forward, but all using rifle and being aggressive without being reckless. And after fairly dominated U.S. first half, Pulisic got a goal on a crease.
We're gonna have to print it on your printer. Mine's not working right.
So mom's here listening to this stream. Mom's here listening to this stream right now.
Who are you on?
YouTube.
Oh. Well, you want to see me in my jammies.
I'm sorry, my mother came and tried to surprise me doing this stream, but in any case, the U.S. really created down the flank, and then Sergio Dest found Pulisic, who scored only the U.S.'s second goal of this World Cup. Yeah, for how well the U.S. has played, only 2 goals, but today, ninth goal got the U.S. in front 1-0, but it came with a twist because Pulisic collided with, I believe, Iran's goalie, and which left Captain America on the pitch. He did not look good. I mean, even when Pulisic somehow got back on his feet and continued, CP10 didn't look like himself. So, despite scoring, Pulisic's night was basically done, and Brendan Erickson ended up substituting for Pulisic, which, I mean, obviously you're not taking out Pulisic in a 1-0 must-win game, but it would have been a bummer and a negative for the U.S. despite that big-time goal. But I'll say this about Pulisic. Big-time players step up in big games, and he did. Now, true, we'll see whether or not Pulisic plays in the next round, but if that's his last moment of this World Cup, it's a darn good one. But I'll talk a little later why I think Pulisic may or may not be done. But second half, I wanted the U.S. to keep its foot on the door. I didn't want Iran to get a foothold in the game, but a little like the Wales game, Iran finally got going. Iran really pushed men off the pitch and tried to keep the U.S. pinned, but the U.S. did a fairly decent job limiting attacks. Later in the second half, Kellen Acosta came in for McKinney because McKinney's not really played much for Juventus this year, so McKinney's stamina really ends about 60, 65, 70 minutes, so that's almost a forced change. And then Josh Short ended up getting hurt a couple minutes later, which really added to the stoppage time, as I'll talk about in a bit here, but it still was 1-0. And then around the 81st, 82nd minute, U.S. manager Craig Berhalter made a couple, I wouldn't say positive changes, but defensive change. He took off Timothy Weah and Serginho Dest, brought on Walker Zimmerman and Shaq Moore. Now you may think, okay, the U.S. is bunkering up shop, but with how much time the stoppage time is spent in this World Cup, it's not a normal 90-minute game. It's more like 97, 98, 99 minutes. So, in essence, he made those changes like the 73rd minute, not at the 81st, 82nd minute, like what we normally see. And secondly, it also meant the U.S. was in a back five, so the U.S. would invite more pressure, which almost led to big time problems because Iran kept pushing, but the U.S. never gave up. I mean, at the end, it seemed like Iran won in a couple of penalties, but the referee didn't go for any of Iran's tricks. And I must say, when I heard John Strong and Stu Holden say like there will be 9 minutes of stoppage time, I think every American halt, and I don't mean fan, I mean every American halt probably heartbeat went up about 20 beats, thinking 9 minutes. Oh no, that point we were all checking our watches, figuring out 9 minutes. Okay, that's one, that's two, that's three, and I'm like 9 minutes. I don't think I've ever seen games end that long. I was thinking during the game, midnight strike for somebody. Well, the game literally ended at midnight. It may have ended like 1 or 2 minutes afterward, but luckily for the U.S., midnight came, but the Americans won and advanced to the next round. The first half was a really good half for the Americans. A lot of positive energy, a lot of aggressiveness, a lot of goal creativity. The second half was about scratching, clawing, fighting, giving every last bit of energy. And the Americans needed every bit because Iran kept coming. The equalizer, which would have advanced them. Oh, but the U.S. never gave up throughout the game. And, it was interesting. If you look at the possession numbers in the first half, I think the U.S. held a sizable edge in possession, but overall throughout the game, it's pretty even. I think the U.S. held like a 51-49% possession advantage. But the U.S. got 12 shots compared to Iran's 4 and only gave up one shot on goal. One shot on goal. So, despite Iran playing well, particularly at the end of the game, the U.S. really could give Iran many, if any, clear chances. So deserved U.S. win. And I want to talk about a couple key guys for the U.S. Obviously, Pulisic. I mean, we know what Pulisic is capable of doing. Big time player with Chelsea. And yeah, he did create the only other U.S. goal against Wales. But this is a game the U.S. needed its top play. And by golly, Pulisic was ever crossing. You knew a goal was coming for Pulisic, and one came out. We'll see whether or not he can play in the next round because I'm hearing he's got like a pelvic contusion, which I heard throughout the game he suffered like an abdominal injury, but a pelvic contusion, and it looks like it may be a pelvic contusion, which is a weird injury because it's really an annoying injury. It's not like a knee, a hamstring, or an ankle. He could potentially end up playing on Saturday night or miss 2-3 weeks, and maybe his World Cup's over anyway. So it's going to be an interesting one. We'll see whether or not Pulisic can come back because the Americans need him. But another guy I want to talk about, Tyler Adams. Because again, Tyler Adams was everywhere. I don't know what Tyler Adams Apple Watch or Garmin Forerunner Watch would have kept them, but I think he's run about 25 miles the first 3 games, and I think he's made one. I think he's made one somewhat cynical tackle. But Tyler Adams has been everywhere. There's a reason why he's the captain of this team. He doesn't get he gets the midfield. His team focus doesn't let the other. Sorry, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired, not physically, but mentally and emotionally exhausted from this game. But Tyler Adams, for being a very young captain, he's like the youngest captain here by like 4 years. But yet Tyler Adams was everywhere tonight. And having your captain not just lead your team or country, but say, go here, go here, go here, go here. Tyler Adams really led this team because this American team didn't make the last World Cup in Russia. And now, not only did they make the World Cup group stage, but now in the round of 16, the Americans are 4 wins away from being world champions. 4 wins from being world champions. Who would have thought 5 years ago after the worst night in American football soccer history, where we lost the Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. Do I need to say anything else? Trinidad and Tobago. But you know, and now I'm going to talk about about Greg Berhalter, the U.S. manager, when he got the job after the 2018 World Cup qualifying fiasco. The goal was make the World Cup group stage. Check. Secondary goal. Get on a group stage. Check. Check. He did that. But I am worried about this U.S. team because against Wales and then tonight, I think his substitution pattern really concerned me. He brought on who was it? Let's see. Haji Wright for Josh Sargent. Haji Wright almost gave away the ball like 8 times in 20 something minutes. Shaq Moore came in for Sajid Jazz. And Shaq Moore looked like a nervous wreck the last 15-20 minutes of the game. I think the U.S. could have made better substitutions. I think somebody like Jesus Ferreira would have brought pace, would have brought energy, because as Iran pushed men forward, Ferreira could have gotten in behind on the counter and maybe set up something. He could have been a focal point just based with his pace. Plus, he could have dropped back and tracked back, helped the midfield some. But the Shaq Moore and Ryan and Walker Zimmerman change seemed a little early, because usually if you're going to make defensive changes, you're going to make them last 3, 4, 5 minutes where you can set up shop, not with 20 minutes left where the team could have multiple waves of it. But ultimately, it didn't matter. The Americans got the win, got the 3 points they needed, and advanced out of Group B. Now, the fun part begins, because just like tonight, it's win or go home. And the Americans, as Group B runners-up, will face the Netherlands, which won Group A. And I'm telling you, I'm ready for this game. I wish it would start now, but I think it'll be a fun game. I think the Netherlands played really well in the group stage. Couple good wins. I mean, true. I'm not sure how much tonight's win mattered, because Qatar might be the worst team at this World Cup. But the Netherlands looked really, really good. Another 2-0 win tonight. Goals from Cody Gakpo and Frankie de Jong. And Gakpo's been one of the best players, scoring loads of goals for the Dutch. So I think it'll be an interesting challenge. I mean, Gakpo and, of course, Memphis Depay provide a lot. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. You don't see many teams play with two guys up top. Usually it's like a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. But the fact that Holland will play with that the Dutch play with two strikers will give the U.S. trouble. And another thing that I've seen, even tonight, despite the U.S. having a lot of early possession, only created one goal. And if the Americans struggle against Harry Maguire and John Stones for England, what are the Americans going to do against the Dutch defense of Nathan Ake, Virgil van Dijk, and Ajax's young center back, Jurien Timber? Yeah. Because Holland will play with a back three. And those guys bring mobility, haze, strength, and maybe most importantly, experience, because they've all been playing this year. Virgil van Dijk's been arguably the best center back in the world the past 4 or 5 years since his big move from Southampton to Liverpool. And even though Virgil van Dijk might not be having the best year, he brings so much leadership, and he always seems to be in the right place. Whether I see him in the red of Liverpool or the orange of the Netherlands, Virgil van Dijk's never out of position. And he almost always wins every header. So the U.S. is going to have to deal with him not just as an offensive guy on set pieces, but him defending set pieces, because the U.S. set piece is, well, could be better. Should be better. But, I'm just happy the Americans got through. I did not care who who escaped Group A, because, to be honest, I think the U.S. can win this game. I think the U.S. can win this game. Yes, I know how good Gakpo Depay can be. Of course, Frankie de Jong, Barcelona midfielder, but Denzel Dumfries, Daley Blunt. But I think this is a game the Americans can win. And while some U.S. fans may say round 16 is enough, I don't think round 16 is enough. I think quarterfinals. I think this American team, despite being very young, I think I saw where tonight's team, its average age was like 24 years old. I mean, if not for Tim Ream being out there, the Americans practically could have put a U23 team out there, almost a U23 team. But I can't wait to see that game. It will be Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, so a bit early compared to these 2 o'clock times. But I can't wait to see the Dutch and the U.S. take place. You imagine the Netherlands and U.S. failed to make the World Cup in Russia, and one of them's going to be in the quarterfinals of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. So the Americans win, face the Dutch in the next round. Go USA. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.